Quebec will soon announce what the minimum wage will be for 2017. There have been calls from the unions and community groups to raise Quebec's minimum wage to $15 an hour. They say that's the best way to help people climb out of poverty. Mathieu Bédard is with the Montreal Economic Institute. You've just done a study on minimum wage, but first off, this $15 figure, in the U.S. especially, it's really become sort of this symbolic target, hasn't it?
Oh, it's definitely a symbol because it's a figure that's easy to remember. It's very speaking. It's a round number. So this is why in most big cities they are asking for $15 wage an hour, even though there are difference in the living standards in cities across North America.
It sounds like a good argument, right? Let's raise the minimum wage and then everybody will make more money. But it has been shown, hasn't it, that when the minimum wage goes up, unemployment also goes up, right? Or it can go up, and why is that?
Well, the logic when you're negotiating your salary or negotiating an increase, a wage increase, is that the boss does his little calculation and he wants to make sure that you're creating at least as much value in the company as he's giving you in money. So when you increase the minimum wage too much, sometimes it can become more than the value that that people are creating.
So it's counterproductive for the people hiring them to pay somebody more than what they're worth.
So in a sense, they're losing money by hiring people with low productivity rather than creating more value for the company, yes.
So what is the minimum wage right now? It's what, $10.50?
$10.75.
$10.75 in Quebec. So if it were to go, let's say, from $10.75 in Quebec to $15, this would have drastic consequences, especially outside Montreal, right?
Definitely, it would have a disproportionate effect outside of the big city centers, especially in rural areas, and it would accelerate even the rural exodus. So if you're looking at the place that would be the most affected in Quebec, it would be at a maximum 56% of the labor force that would be affected by such a measure. It would be actually between 56 and 41%.
So first off, the rural areas are a problem because in the cities, the salaries tend to be higher anyway. And also because in the cities, people who make minimum wage tend to be more along the lines of younger people. They're older in the rural areas, right?
They're older in the sense that we have more family working at a relatively low wage.
So the consequences are greater.
So the consequences are greater. If you're saying that a student is going to be out of a job, it is tragic, but it's less so that when it's a family and that has people living on this wage.
And so they would start to come into the cities then looking for work, which means then the rural areas become depleted as well, right? But there are other consequences as well if the minimum wage, let's say, were to go up to $15, for example. I didn't even think of. We risk more young people leaving school, right?
Definitely, it's been shown that it's having an effect. Even in Quebec, some minimum wage increases have increased the dropout rate. It's seen also elsewhere. Increase unemployment along the low-skilled labor. It raises price for commodities that poor people have
yeah, the prices go up as well.
Yes.
So then what is the solution then? Because the problem of poverty still remains, right?
Yes, and it's definitely true that it's hard for people on low wages to make ends meet. But there are measures that have less adverse effect that we can think of. One of them is the basic personal income tax bracket, the first bracket to which you pay taxes.
So raising the threshold?
Raising the threshold would definitely help some people, or even some more targeted measure, such as the work premium that is given to workers that have a job.
Or tax credits.
Or some tax credits for solidarity, for example, that could be increased and given to more people.
Interesting. If you want to hear more about Mathieu's study, it's an interesting one. You can go to the website for the Montreal Economic Institute. It's iedm.org. And thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks to you.